Hello, everybody, and I'm Dr. Ron Oberstein, and welcome to our series, Life by Life West. And I have a great guest with me today. I've known this gentleman, I believe, since you started chiropractic school. I don't know exactly how far along, but I got Dr. Brett Jones from Oakland, California. Brett is a graduate of Life West. He graduated in 2013. He's done amazing things in chiropractic in a very, short 7 to 8 years. And so we're going to find out as we dig deeper to see what's going on inside the mind, heart, and soul of Dr. Brett Jones. So welcome to Life by Life West, Dr. Brett.
Thank you. And if you're going deep inside the mind, you might want to be careful.
Never know what we're going to find, right? I
never know, man. There's some weird shit in there.
I
cuss on there? I'm good?
Yeah, I guess you did. Cool. I have to tell you, of all the things I've lost, I miss my mind the most. That's my saying. Anyway, let's jump in, Brett. Let's jump in and let's what's been happening. I know, that you're doing really cool things with a group called the Kairos Training that you actually started in, I think you told me, what was it, in 2011?
Yeah.
At the halls of Life West, right?
Mm-hmm. Underground before they opened the front door at 6. And so, well, I could say it now, but yeah, I mean, we weren't an official club, I think, until I graduated. So we were, underground guerrilla club, and we had fun. We had a lot of fun.
I love it, man. Clandestine. That's the way chiropractic started, right? When no licensing, nothing happening, people doing great stuff behind their
find
door.
A way.
I love it.
It's happening now. Try to shut people down. People got to find a way. Find a way.
It still is. So, anyways, 2011, you started the Ninjas, right? It's called Adjusting Ninjas back then. It used to, get a group of people together and they practice adjusting skills. And then around 2013, 14, it switched over, right?
Right, to Kairos Training Culture, became a professional corp, brought Dr. Lance Von State in to help lead the movement portion. And I was like the artist director. He was a movement director. And that's when we started doing what we call the training camps. And so basically took what had worked really well at the club level or pre-club level at Life West. The club continued to grow after I left. So I knew it was much bigger than just my charisma or whatever was going on there, that there was something magical about it. And then found a way to go do 2-day seminars and then took off from there and been around the world now. And I don't even know how many different countries. I've trained over 4,500 chiropractors and chiropractic students. It's developed in something much, much larger than I ever originally knew was possible. And it's a beautiful thing.
That's what happens when you touch on something that's the truth, right? It just organically grows. So congratulations on that. I think it's awesome. Yeah. Let's share with our listeners, and our viewers, like how'd you get into chiropractic, or I could say how you found it or how chiropractic found you.
In this moment, how I would view it is from a large wound. I had both as a child, meaning that I had what I would consider a utopia, active family, both parents, brothers, just real connected. And then I experienced the polar opposite of that. And that all started in 1999 with the loss of my brother. And then from there, lost religion, parents split, mom left, it just got worse and worse and worse and worse. And following the loss of religion, I knew there was a void, but I kind of avoided the void, if you will. Mm-hmm. And but I couldn't find anything that connected beyond me. So I became very ego driven because the God that I had grown up loving, trusting, building my morals from, I felt like betrayed me. So I was angry. And, and that anger led to some behaviors that weren't healthy. Luckily I was an athlete, and I was able to put a lot of that on the field as a football player, and got out of the situation I was in by getting a scholarship to go to Colorado. But there was always this void, and I kept kind of, I was listening-ish to different religions, to some different teachings, but nothing was clicking. I had an interest in the human body and performance, being an athlete all my life, how to get bigger, faster, stronger, and all those things. And I studied exercise science and kinesiology and sports management in undergrad. And it was one of those things, the more I found out, the more I realized I didn't know. And I wanted to continue on. And chiropractic was calling. I found it interesting that you could use just your hands and help people, that you could be active, and you did something that looked similar to what I was doing on the football field. So I thought I might be decent at it. And, but what really hit, which I had no idea. And I was touring, I was touring 3 schools at the time in California, right? We had, what's now known as SUHS. We had Palmer West, we had Life West, and I'd gone to the first 2, and I was almost decided on Palmer West, but I meet, now Dr. Ben Glass. He takes me to lunch, or we went out to lunch together just outside on one of those picnic tables at Life West, and we're having lunch, and he tells me about this book, Chiropractic Revealed, and it tells me about the philosophy of chiropractic. And this whole time I'd been researching chiropractic, I never heard about a philosophy. And I ended up reading Pasquale Soli on my flight home, and the light bulb went on.
Yeah.
And it's like everything I'd been looking for was right there within me. I learned about this universal intelligence that exists within us as the innate wisdom of the body, and that thing I'd been avoiding and hiding from was myself. And it allowed the healing process to really begin. And so, it called me in to heal me and to empower me to be a healing facilitator for others.
Yeah. It's so beautiful because, it's like you found it, or it found you, right? Somehow,
somehow, some way.
Yeah, there was that union. And when you really look at the crossroads that we have a lot of times in our lives, I mean, you could probably say if you hadn't have seen, Dr. Ben, or Ben at the time, because he was a student, right? And hadn't had that cross path like that, who knows where you'd be. And I trust that the universe would have you in the perfect place that you're supposed to be, obviously, because, that's where you are. That's why that happened like that. But that's really beautiful. Did you have a chiropractor? Were you adjusted before you started chiropractic school?
So my dad had seen a chiropractor here and there, and I think I had received 2 adjustments when I was in pain. It didn't really do anything for me. Probably for exactly that reason, I received 2 random adjustments in a lot of pain. So I mean, I had a misconception, but I wasn't attached to it. So I was not a chiropractic miracle story, or had consistent care, and had to learn about that and how to create that for my own family. And it's been great.
Yeah. So, so you you went through school, graduated, opened up in Oakland pretty quickly, right?
Right out of school. So I preceptored with Dr. Jean Wilhelm in Alive Chiropractic. While I was still a student, ended up buying her practice with Dr. Melissa. And then basically in 2004, that was in 2013, 2014, we went our own ways. And I went into the Laurel District, which I'm still at now, here in 2020. And so we went right at the gun.
Yeah. And you've done great things in your practice. I mean, there's just your practice is just rocking and rolling. For our, practitioners who are at whatever age, but, it doesn't matter how long they've been in practice, but for the ones who are just starting, or, 0 to 10 years, like really looking to see, what is it? Like, what are some of the things that Brett Jones found within yourself or wherever, that you could share? What would you share with people?
Yeah, let's go with 3 main things here. One is know that to have a successful business in chiropractic, there's really 2 main things that you need to be thinking about. One is your product, right, and marketing your product. Right? So basically, be able to say what you're gonna do and then do it. Like. Yeah, it's pretty simple. So, when it comes to having a great product, the product is your art, right? It's your expression of the philosophy and of the science. And so when your product is amazing, it becomes a lot easier to offer and to sell. And so I would say develop an amazing product. And so there's many forms and expressions in chiropractic to do that. But make sure that when you come out that you are offering a solid product. It's the same thing as when you work at a restaurant that serves good food. It's a lot easier to be a waiter there, right? You just tell them, oh man, order anything. It's great. But then, if you're at a restaurant that serves crappy food, every time somebody orders something, your butthole clenches a little bit. You're like, oh man, here we go again. This is going to be a nightmare. So offer a good product. Let me say communication. So be able to communicate. I think philosophy helps here, but also the need to be dynamic. Right. The need to be dynamic in your tone and your delivery and where your message is going. And so now with everything that's going on, a lot of that messaging is happening online. So you got to be able to market effectively. Mm-hmm. Your main problem coming out of school is, especially as you open up your office, even if you're going back to hometown, but usually your number one problem is obscurity.
Yeah.
People don't know who you are. And it's like, I wish it was as easy as you just put a sign on the window and you say, I'm open. And people just came rushing in. It ain't how it works, man.
Flick the light on, right? Oh, the light's on. And
the light's on. Now come on in.
Show up.
Now, you got to get out and talk to people. Shoot.
You touched on something interesting because, what you touched on was be dynamic, and I think that we can explore that because dynamism or whatever the word might be, right? I make up words all the time. But being dynamic, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to be vocal or out there or, we have so many powerful people in chiropractic who are quiet, and but they own what they own and they know that they know that they know. Mm-hmm. And my sense is that's dynamism, right? Like that you just know it,
Well, I would say that would have a level of magnetism. The knowing and the certainty and the clarity has an attractiveness to it. And then the dynamism is the ability to go along the spectrum, even if it's not in expressed tone with voice, but potentially the variance in how you can see people, how you can listen to people, the quality of your touch, the quality of your care, the front desk, the flavors of the office. Yeah, so like there needs to be something that is appealing, right? Which is like an attractiveness. And I think that follows in alignment with also then the magnetism, which comes from the deeper levels of certainty.
Yes, yes. And when you talk about that magnetism, the levels of certainty, I think you're exactly right on, because when you know your art, listen, it's a three-legged stool and we know that, right? Science, philosophy, and art. But when you know your art and you are so comfortable that you know that, right? That's magnetism. I mean,
it makes everything a lot easier.
Yeah, they get drawn to that. That trust that's there. It's not an explicit trust. It's not like, oh, do you trust me? It's not about that. It's about that that. So almost like when you pick up your child, right? And you are so comfortable with children that children just naturally feel comfortable because they just know that that's there. So it's so true, man. It's just so true. And I love how you eloquently stated that because it's really that. The dynamism that with whatever the word we're using these days. After dynamism, it should say Dr. Brett Jones, Dr. Ron Oberstein, circa 2020, kind of thing. Right. Thanksgiving. But that dynamism really does, it does come from, what you talked about and being able to get that out to people. What else? So you said there was a few other, few things that you could think of, what else you got there?
So the art, right? The ability to communicate effectively, and then into the marketing. But when it comes to communication, I think where a lot of people go off is off the trail of success, if you will, is they're not communicating to the needs of the client. Meaning that, Tony Robbins would say that there's two main keys to continual success in a business, and it's innovation and marketing. And the innovation, though, is for your client, right? So a lot of people think, I want to innovate because you think of all the cool stuff that you want to do for your office, right? Because it's going to whatever. But it's like, is that what your client needs? And it's the same thing in communication, meaning that you may have gone right, to a Dan Murphy class or a James Chestnut class, and you learn some really cool pathways and some really dope language styles of communicating at Dr. Mo, some deep neurology. And you might have gone and heard these beautiful things, but is your client ready for those pathways, or is that for you? Yeah. Right? It's the philosophy and the depth that we take our philosophy in understanding and the science is for us to have the certainty and clarity. Then you have to realize where your person's at, and then be the bridge of helping them go through the ladder of evolution. And so I say so the key to communication is actually listening and understanding where your people are at. And that's what the consult is, right? Your consultation is really a discovery of needs. So I think when you start to reframe some of these things, it helps you better understand how to evolve the communication styles so that you can be more effective in helping meet people where they're at.
Right. And when you say discovery of needs, it's their needs. Obviously, they're coming to you, but it's also discovering who you're with. Right.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. You know, because, I mean, are you dealing with a kinesthetic person? Are you dealing with a visual person? Are you dealing with an auditory person? So you can communicate on their level, right?
Yep.
And those are that's that fine art, you know, that we talk about in communication, right? Being able to understand it, because, like you said, you can have the greatest message if they're not hearing it.
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. It's not worth much. Mm-hmm. Cool. Well, you know, those are really good. That's beautiful, because, you know, I think for our people to understand that, to find where their communication is, what their product is, and how do they deliver it, right? Mm-hmm. You know, and when they can get down to that level, when you really boil it down, it's really not that complicated, is it?
No, people make it complicated. It's not easy. Right, because I think to boil something down simply is a sign of mastery. Right, my mentor, Dr. Marvin Tolsky, would say the ego loves to complicate things. Mm-hmm. Right, and so the soul loves simplicity, but in order to receive it in simplicity, you often have to go to the depths of complexity, and then you bring back you know what? Yeah, there it was. But now when you speak it, it's different. So it's like I view it like concentric circles. Like you, in the center core, right, you have this deep, profound wisdom and truth. And then we need to go out and explore the edges of consciousness, if you will, the outer rings, the outer spheres, to take it down to the most specific and complex and detailed and particle form, if you will. And then bring it back again to the center. And every time we go along those cycles of the hero's journey, now when we communicate the same principle, it's different.
Yeah.
Right? It's layered different. It has experience and it has wisdom. It has gone through some challenges. And so the tone changes. Yeah. Where the voice comes from, how it sounds, the cadence, the depth. I think a good example for that is actually Tony Robbins, man. You know, so I went to Unleash the Power Within, and you know they'll blame it on his vocal cords and whatever else. But I went to Tony Robbins Unleash the Power Within 2018, right? And I loved it. You know, I was hesitant. You know, and a lot of people, you can say what you want to say, but the dude throws an amazing experience. All right, so I'm blown away. I go back home and I was like, I need more Tony, right? So I'm like, all right, let me look up one of his, his old books, and I think he had like Awaken the Giant or something like that, right? And the book's like from the 80s. And so I put the book on, and I'm like, who the hell is this? This ain't Tony. It was like nasal register. Like, it was like, I'm like, I've been listening to this cavernous, like deep, voice. And I'm like, what is this? I'm like, that's experience.
Yeah.
That's wisdom right there. So it was cool for me to see the journey in the voice because it comes from a different place.
Yeah.
And that's power, man.
Yeah, and that's only one aspect, you talk about the circle, right? And I think people forget that it's all tied in, like there's crying, there's laughing, and, the circle is, you laugh so hard, you cry, you cry so hard, you laugh, right. It's all one, and I think what you talked about was, that's what Dr. Williams' message was. When you really boil down Dr. Sid Williams, his message was about getting out of our heads, getting out of our ego, and really experiencing that dynamic essential that's within. And that same dynamic essential that's within is everywhere.
Yeah.
right? It's that universal intelligence, right? It's beautiful, Brett. I love what you're saying, man. And it's like, when we can get to that place, I think the place that people stop is when it gets difficult. They hit that difficult spot, right? And they just kind of pull back instead of moving into it, right? Leaning into it and experiencing it and then being able to go through,
And, so yeah, we have, Fred Barge, Life Without Fear. You got Sid Williams, The Path of Success Starts in the Heart. But what comes up for me when you say that, and I feel like that's part of my story of what's helped create this is, and this is a message for everybody, is perseverance.
Yeah.
We'd be on here a long time if I talked about all the challenges I've had within chiropractic. And of a few of them, but probably only 1% of them. And with that, because my childhood, I guess it would be my late childhood, moving into my teenage years, was so difficult. And I questioned death. I saw death all around me. My mom was suicidal and lost my brother, and then my brother lost his friend, and it was like, this is death and depression and violence, like all of it. That's where I come from. Because I've been in that and made it out of it. Like all this other little chiropractic bullshit and like, it's nothing.
Yeah.
And what happens is a lot of people, they hit that resistance and this is actually, I learned this from Sid. This is in Lasting Purpose, the book. And he talks about it in the Meta Lens too, is the greater your ambitions and goals, the more resistance you're going to meet. It's the nature of the game. Like that is the balancing of the forces. The bigger your dreams are, the more resistance there's going to be. And so just know that. And then when it comes in, when the waves come in, start building strong support teams. Start knowing when you need recuperation. But I think a lot of people, they set some goal and then they find that they want comfortability more than they want their growth. Right. And if you can learn to thrive in the uncomfortable, then you actually, like, it's the same thing like with Wim Hof, right? You can do the cold water immersions, right? Yeah. A lot of people, when they get into Wim Hof, they, man, I hate cold water and this sucks. But after a while, you just keep doing it. You're like, there's this new relationship that you build with it. And I've done a couple workouts with you. I remember we went to, I don't know, it was Balboa Park in San Diego. That was a tough workout, right? And you were doing well. You're crushing it. And I looked over, and we both got the same weird grin on our face, right? It's just like we're creatures that start to thrive in this weird punishment and this, like just this, well, it's not even punishment, it's discomfort, right? Because as soon as you realize, well, shoot, every time I push a workout and I train and I tear a little bit of muscle and I recuperate and I grow, I had to experience the discomfort for growth.
That's right.
And it's in every part of your life. It's going to be in your business. It's going to be in your relationships. It's going to be in your family. It's going to be everywhere that you need to experience a little bit of discomfort, show up anyway, right? For you to evolve.
That's right.
Otherwise, you're going back into compression, you're going back into contraction, you're going back into who you've always been.
That's right. So, and that's what we're talking about, where when they hit that spot, they back off and they run from it, actually, so they never grow, and that's where the growth is, right? The growth is in that you have to stretch to grow, right? And that's where it's at. But what's interesting, Brett, is that it's also the resistance. Because like you talked about Wim Hof, when you get in the cold water, the reason why it gets easier is because you don't have the resistance to get in. Like when you get in the tub or you get in the workout, you're going, oh God, this is going to be, I don't know if I want to do it. Jumping off the high board the first time, I don't know. Right. We're giving resistance, right? And so we're just holding ourselves back, right? Instead of just releasing, right? And just becoming. And that's the difference. On some level, that's the difference between the ego and the innate mind.
Right. You hit the nail on the head, because that resistance we're talking about, it's internal.
That's right.
Right. It all starts within. Right. So a lot of the visual, even for me, has often been that resistance was something outside of me. It's these other people, right? These other people like to talk their trash. Or it's these other people that like to put roadblocks in my way. But I'm like, man, how much of this am I creating?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So that resistance to it all is often starts within. Mm-hmm.
That's right. That's right. I'll tell you, I learned something really cool, and it's just exactly along this line. Michael Jordan, when he became Michael Jordan, right? Like I'm talking about, be like Mike, Nike blew him up, right? Just blew him up. He couldn't go anywhere in the world without having people like just bombarding him, right? And he got to the point where he could walk into a restaurant and nobody would bother him. They'd look at him. They go, that's Michael Jordan, but they wouldn't bother him. Mm-hmm. He became so comfortable within himself, right? He needed that. And this is what he said. He needed that. He needed all these people clamoring to be around him and not being able to go into a restaurant. And he got to that place within himself where he said, I'm creating this.
Right.
I could still be me, still be the best basketball player on the planet, and be able to still live my life, And he just mastered that.
Profound.
That's being on the inside.
Did you see the series The Last Dance?
Yeah, I saw it all. I watched every one of them. I watched
so good
with my daughter, with my son-in-law, with my wife, and
that's it was time.
Great lessons, man. Great lessons because
beautiful.
You talk about adversity when you're on top. Everybody wants to shoot you down.
Yep.
Everybody, people used to say to me and Mary, they used to go, "Oh, you guys, we want to raise our family just like you raised your family. We're like, don't stop, man, stop that. Do not put us on a pedestal, And I'll tell you why. And same thing for everybody who's listening. The only thing that happens when you're put on a pedestal is people want to drag you down. They want to knock you over. They want, what do they say about when people die? They build statues so pigeons can poop all over their heads, right? It's like, it means nothing, do you. And that's what I love about you, Brett, is that you do you. And that's so important. And those lessons come in many flavors. They come in many sizes, right?
Mm-hmm. But I think that's the beautiful opportunity for chiropractic is that to a certain extent, it values expression, and there is enough space that you really can blaze your own path. Respect the principles, respect the profession, and be you. There's nothing more beautiful in the world that you could be than you. Like that, your unique expression is the greatest offering to humanity. And so, and that's something that we encourage, deeply within Kairos is yes, we have a training system. Yes, we have a framework, and we're really trying to bring out the best you. And that is the ultimate aim of education as defined by B.J. Palmer and Fame and Fortune, that, education is not designed to put things into you, to then have you repeat like a poll parrot, he would say, specific memorization techniques. It's actually designed to withdraw the infinite wisdom that exists within you. So how do we change this relationship in multiple ways, in all aspects of life, to really be encouraging people to be their divine selves? I would say a big lesson for me came in with my boy. My boy Jax has had some unique challenges, and was said to be on the autism spectrum at the age of 3. He had no vocal progression from 1 to 3 years old. However, if you meet him here today, the story is a lot different. But with that said, what I realized about being in that world and going to some of those groups and meetings and all the things is what Jax in itself, and every kid, right, is gonna can thrive when you honor them. Yeah. If you try to take them and want them to then fit into this mold of the average, they're gonna struggle. But every single being on this planet has divine gifts. And how do we honor their gifts? And how do we create spaces where their talents can emerge, where their creativity can emerge, where we can see the human in them? And that's something that humanity needs right now. There's a massive just wanting to put every thought into one thought. And if you're not thinking this thought, you'll be censored or fact checked and all this other craziness right now. When, you know, the beauty, as you can now see represented in your family, is as diversity. And that diversity goes beyond skin tone. That diversity goes into thinking. You know, so how do we encourage this for more people, for more unique expressions in love and in truth and in expression?
Yeah. I'll tell you one thing, man. We have to stop labeling, you know, because we label, you know, we label autism, we label ADHD, we label all this stuff. We label us, you know, straight, mixer, this, that. There's so many labels. And it's like, you know.
And labels confine you.
That's exactly it. It's what they do. And they're other people's perceptions.
Right.
And then people start acting to those perceptions, right? You know, it's kind of like you say, oh yeah, this is my daughter. She's so shy. And everywhere you go, that kid's going to be shy because they'll always play up to the expectations of their parents. That's what children do. We play up.
Can we take this one meta for a second?
Go.
All right. So what a label actually is an energetic grid that has a certain predictability, meaning that chiropractic, you can do with every word actually. But if you put a label on something, right, you know, a label. So let's talk in the realm of diagnosis. A diagnosis, to be a diagnosis, has a certain list of symptoms, right? And so those symptoms itself that it's associated with, right, carry their own energy, even in thought form. So now every time, right, that you then label somebody a certain diagnosis, you're giving them a certain prediction and projecting a future on them based on the electric signature of it all.
Yeah.
So it limits and it contains and it really sticks people into the Newtonian particle form of the reality, which we know that quantum also exists and explains things that go far beyond the physical known world that we often operate in. So, yes, I agree with the labels.
Unless you don't accept it.
Right.
And that's the key. That's the key. That's what you did, right? Yeah. When you're getting, you know, hit on and all the pressures that you're getting, if you don't accept that, you know, Dr. Sid used to say, my innate rejects that. That's what he said. My innate rejects that, right? Yeah. And then the minute he said that out loud, my innate rejects that.
Yeah.
Boom. He did.
Man, that's a mantra people need right now.
Tell me about it.
There's some strong things people need. My innate rejects. That's the mantra of boundaries right there.
It is.
My innate rejects.
It is, and it's so beautiful. So that's what you did. You know, that's what all people. I got to tell you something. My thought is that successful people who have reached the level, whatever that is, whatever that means, but have reached the level. They've all gone through these trial and tribulations, and they've all had to reject. They've all had to not let this stop me, you know, and just somehow, somewhere in their being, you know, they pushed through that and done that. And Brett, I am just thrilled and I'm proud of what you've done and what you're beginning to do, man. It's like you're just, you know, in my world, man, you know, I'm 40 years in practice, you know, I'm
still young in this.
You're not a puppy by no means, but you're definitely, you know, you're definitely running, you know, and I just want to tell you that I'm just thankful. You know, I'm so thankful for what you're carrying, the torch you're carrying, and the people you know that are carrying, you know, of your generation, and continue to do it. Don't let anybody stop you. You know, you know, I know that you're respectful. I know what you said about the beginning part. You know, you got to know your product. You got to know how you're delivering it. So there's all that, but we don't stop who we are on the inside. And you know, I want to see you, you know, as the next Michael Jordan in chiropractic. You know, and that means that it's right there. You know, and like you said, it's hard work. I will leave you with one thing. All of us, I'm gonna have you leave to our final words, but it's like Dr. Williams, you were touching on this, said that persistence is omnipotent. You know, that's what you said before. You got to be persistent. So just be persistent. So share a few words as we wrap up right now. What would you like our viewers to hear from you? Bring it from an innate level, brother, and share that.
Know that you're enough exactly the way that you are. Know that the person that you are becoming is being attracted to you in this moment, as long as you're able to identify the image of the energy Know that you are needed in these moments. The best of you, all of you. And know that we'll get through this together.
I'd like to add an amen to that. All right, our viewers, Dr. Brett Jones, Oakland, California. Thank you, Brett, so much. And to our viewers, I want to thank you for listening to our conversation. I know that there's a ton of pearls that were dropped. If you just listen, re-listen, and re-listen, take what Dr. Brett talked about, and push through. And on the screen will be, how to get a hold of him and websites that he has. So that'll all be there for you. And until we come back with you at our next Life by Life West, we wish you well, we wish you happiness, we wish you peace, and find that inner voice within you so that you can bring that out and keep living your life from above down, inside out. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brett.